Now let's head to Amman and speak to Ahmed Bayram. He is the Middle East spokesperson for the Norwegian Refugee Council. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for joining us here on TRT World. How difficult is it for your staff to operate inside of Gaza?
Thanks for having me. It's almost impossible. We're asking the impossible from aid workers at the moment. My colleagues themselves have been displaced. We have been cut off from our own aid, from our own warehouses, from our own trucks. My team doesn't have internet to communicate with each other. Internet is very unstable, unreliable. They have had to spend their days and nights on the street. I mean, these frontliners, as we say in our aid community, are suffering just like any other segment or group in Gaza at the moment. It's chaos, it's carnage, and people are being pushed into these little corners to stay there and not leave these areas, only for these areas to be bombarded.
On your website, you've released a statement from your organization saying that civilian deaths in Gaza are a stain on Israel and its allies. What do you mean by that?
Inaction and insufficient action, I think, is I mean, everyone is guilty of that. The international community is guilty of that. Israel's allies of influence are guilty of that. We hear good rhetoric on the ground. We see even more deaths, more loss of lives, more damage, more destruction, more displacement. The scars, the forever scars that these children will live with, the missing limbs, the missing members of family. This is all all represents a scar on and a stain on humanity. Our colleagues tell us that they have lost faith and hope in humanity, in our shared humanity, because they see that, the longer this carries on, the more losses that we are recording and we are seeing. I mean, just think of the scale of damage, the scale of death that are so preventable, that are so needless at the moment amongst children and their families, when, the world is watching on and we hear about, all this good rhetoric of we need to protect civilians, we need more aid trucks. No, what we need that, of course, but how can you do that? You do that through a ceasefire that Israel commits to, that all parties commit to, so that we can do our job and we can help these families in the long run. And it's going to take years and years for them to recover. This is why we need a ceasefire now.
Now, Israel claims, though, that a ceasefire would only allow Hamas to sort of regroup and then pose a threat in the future to Israel. Is that a danger that you see as well with a possible ceasefire?
I mean, I'm sitting here, I represent a humanitarian organization. Well, I can tell you that the longer this drags on, the biggest, to lose from all of this, the biggest party to lose is the civilians themselves. And we have seen this over and over again, schools that have been hit, hospitals that have been targeted, even shelters that are hosting thousands of people have been bombed. The water, the contaminated water, I'm here in Amman, and the overcast weather, warns of a storm that is looming. It's going to be a very similar case in Gaza. People are spending their days and nights on the street in the open. All of these losses of life, loss of even values of humanity that we are seeing unfolding in Gaza, put humanity first and put these civilians first and think of what is going to happen to them. This is the worst winter that we are expecting in Gaza, and children and their families will, pay an even higher price for what's happening.
That's Ahmed Bayram in Amman. He is the Middle East spokesperson of the Norwegian Refugee Council. Thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World.